Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to St. Andrew's Episcopal Church on this Good Friday. At this time, as is our tradition, we would like to invite you into a time of prayer and worship in our reflection on the Stations of the Cross. The Stations of the Cross began as pilgrims retraced Jesus' final steps in Jerusalem up to the hill where he was crucified. Wanting to share that practice and experience with people who couldn't make the trip to Jerusalem, they created local stations of meditation that became in itself a tradition. You can find this tradition on the inside of many churches still today. This journey of the cross is not only a meditation of Jesus accomplishing what he came to do, the redemption of humanity through his own willful sacrifice, but it's also a contemplation of Jesus silently participating in some of the worst aspects of being human. We see him being tempted to give up, being betrayed by a friend, being convicted in an unjust political system, physical pain, mockery, public humiliation, broken family relationships, and one of our greatest fears, having to die. These are all aspects of human life that he was not insulated from. In fact, on the cross, he quotes King David, saying, my God, why have you forsaken me?" As if to say, why is it like this? He was one that was not separate from our own suffering today. Many of us, during this time of pandemic, feel the weight of anxiety and fear as we journey through this current world. We are told many narratives of how it is and what it is to come. During this season of Lent, we as a community look to the life and the teachings of Jesus. We think that the one who was in the midst of such political and empirical turmoil, who spoke the words, "Be not afraid, and come to me, all you who are weary and carrying a heavy load, for I will give you rest," is someone who can illuminate our desperate viewpoint. These stations are a cross-section of elements, ideas, and objects from Jesus' journey to the cross. As we work through these stations, may we see that we are not troubled guests in this world, that we are not forsaken, and that the good news of this season was expressed best by Jesus when he said, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world." And so, friends, we journey on the stations of the cross. So the first station, Jesus is tempted. At the end of Matthew's gospel, we read Jesus saying, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Jesus is compelled to a desperate prayer. Think of Jesus' complete honesty in this prayer. Jesus calls together his friends in his most desperate time, and he asks us to think, what drives you to such a desperate time of prayer? The second station. Jesus is betrayed. Again, in Matthew's gospel, he says, "Friend, do what you came here to do." He says, "The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him. But after 3 days, he will rise." Think about it. The Son of God was betrayed by a friend, a close follower, a disciple. The Son of God was betrayed by his creation. Have you experienced that sense of betrayal? Or perhaps have you betrayed another? The third station. Jesus is condemned. "Shall I crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the chief priests answered. But then Jesus responded, saying, "You have no power over me if it were not given to you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin." So Jesus submits quietly and peacefully. Jesus is condemned by religious leaders. What was their fear about Jesus? What is your greatest fear today? The fourth station. Jesus is mocked. He says, "If I spoke the truth, why do you strike me?" These soldiers brutalized Jesus. Possibly their common response to ordinary prisoners. Just imagine the Son of God being brutalized by men. What brings on their mockery? What brings on our mockery of others? The fifth station. Jesus is given his cross. Jesus said, "Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the desert, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, that everyone who believes in him may have eternal life." The cross was a public murder device for criminals. And this is how Jesus was killed. Imagine carrying the wood of the cross up the hill to your eventual, slow, and public death. What is the cross that you carry this day? The sixth station. Jesus falls. Jesus tells his disciples, "Unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." And then at the end of the Gospel of John, we read that near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. Jesus' humanity and his ever-decreasing strength shows as he's moving forward towards his public death. Imagine Jesus experiencing weakness and distress in a public setting with absolutely nowhere to hide. While many desert him, the women who have supported Jesus follow him all the way to the cross. Have you deserted another? Have you deserted Christ when life gets difficult? The seventh station, Simon carries Jesus' cross. In the Gospel of Luke, we read Simon of Cyrene was pressed in to serve us and carries Jesus' cross. Early in Jesus' life, Jesus himself said, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Imagine being pulled from the crowd and carrying this man's device of death. What was it like for Simon to walk alongside Jesus in all of this? Would you walk alongside a suffering Jesus? How are you being called to deny yourself, to pick up your cross and follow the suffering one? The eighth station. Jesus is stripped. Jesus said, for if men do these things, when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry? And as he hung on the cross, he gasped, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And the soldiers divided up his clothes by casting lots. Did you know that Romans crucified criminals naked? Reflect on the shame of the nakedness of this moment. The nakedness of the divine Son of God. When has there been a moment in your life of feeling naked and shamed? The ninth station, Jesus is nailed to the cross. When you have lifted up the Son of Man, he said, then you will know that I am the one I claim to be. And when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all humanity to myself. And yet, at the last, he gasped once again, my God, why have you forsaken me? The long physical pain of crucifixion was excruciating. In fact, the word excruciating is derived from the word crucifixion. When have you felt the physical and emotional excruciating pain? And then the 10th station, Jesus dies. The Gospel of John tells us greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. It is finished, Jesus said. So, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And Jesus died. He really died. Our greatest fear is death. And he himself, the divine Son of God, was not insulated from that fear. His physical body stopped working, and his friends watched him die. Have you felt that moment where you say, Father, it is finished? When have we experienced that great fear of death? The 11th station. Jesus is buried. The Gospel of Matthew says, when she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. His friends buried him. Jesus' friends buried him. Have you ever buried a loved one? Imagine doing that with the one you believed was going to change the world and bring ultimate justice and healing. Have you ever felt an experience of burying hope, the promise of justice or healing? And friends, the last station, we experience the hope of Jesus' resurrection. I am the good shepherd, he said. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. Don't tell anyone what you have seen until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead, Jesus told them. And in the book of Revelation, we read, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever. And I hold the keys of death and Hades. So consider the other side of our greatest fear. Jesus shows us there is something beyond death. This concludes our stations this day. I wish you God's blessings of peace.